Welcome to the Bonners Ferry City Council special meeting for 10/24/23. Things are going to run just a little bit different tonight. Normally at a special council meeting, we don't take public comments. However, tonight we are going to allow public comments pertaining to golf only. So we're going to have a PowerPoint presentation put on by the City Administrator, Lisa Ailport. Once that is done, then we will go into public comments.
Do you have to vote public comments in? Do you have to amend the agenda? Okay.
I'm ready. And we're missing a councilman. I'm guessing he didn't get the memo that it starts at 5:30 instead of 6:10. So we'll see.
Okay, I will, the PowerPoint presentation that is being shown on the screen is the same one you have in front of you, council members. And I did that so if you want to take notes along the way, you're welcome to. So if you have any questions, feel free to stop along the way. But I'm just going to kind of summarize the night and the parameters in which we're meeting tonight so that there is some understanding of what staff needs as far as the result of tonight's meeting and where we go from there. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of go briefly through the history of how did we get here. So as early as March of this year, the former mayor was working with the golf committee on a plan to replace the current contractor. And I received, we know that just by virtue of the committee minutes. The golf subcommittee was formed by council in July of 2030. And you'll see under that little picture on the side there, those are the minutes of the city council meeting that happened in July. At the same meeting, the formation of the golf structure was presented by golf community members from Nelson. And you'll see kind of between this slide and the next, the discussion that occurred was again taken right from the minutes of the council. At that meeting, regarding the structure of how the golf committee recommended looking at the golf contract, no decision was made by council regarding how that contract would be set up. So again, this is taken from those minutes. The golf subcommittee then began meeting sometime after July council meeting to set the stage for the selection process. That resulted in an RFP, or request for proposal, being developed and deployed to several venues across the county, or country, excuse me. And this was based on global discussions with then deputy clerk. Councilman Arthur said he would be late. So at that time, myself or the attorney hadn't been presented the RFP and had not reviewed for compliance with that over the phone. At the request of the then mayor, myself or the attorney also cannot find any correspondence between ourselves, the mayor, council members, or the golf subcommittee regarding the selection process. Well, it's important to notice this because that's essentially what we're doing today. From records obtained by the deputy clerk, interviews occurred in early September of 23, and according to the city records, there were 4 applicants including interview 3. On or around September 12th of this year, I raised concerns regarding the recommendation I was putting forward and asked the attorney to review the process and to give guidance on the next steps to ensure no laws will be violated. On the 14th, the city attorney issued council a finding at attorney privilege memo regarding how the council should engage in a contract situation. And a copy of that's been provided to you. I will note that the information, there's public packets that we have. One is obviously the packet that was published. The second packet is the PowerPoint presentation, and then the third one is the privilege presentation, which you all received via electronic mail, but for the record, I want to make sure you know it's there as well. On September 22nd, Mayor Staples resigns. And so at this point, we have nobody really leading the charge on giving direction to staff on what to do. On the 3rd of October, Mayor Alonzo was sworn in to serve out the former mayor's term, and Councilman Arthur was also sworn in. On 10/4, the city attorney provides counsel with the client-attorney privilege correspondence on the RFP process, copy which has been provided to you. the time we have our current mayor, staff has, at the direction of the mayor, has begun researching, reviewing, and preparing the advertisement of the golf course and golf manager, or operation manager, that description, the draft contract, in preparation for tonight's meeting. So as we look at how tonight's meeting could potentially go, these are just recommendations by staff, which the mayor and council body can certainly choose to do it differently. The mayor and council may hear public comments regarding the topic on the agenda. Staff recommends that those comments include remain on topic and regarding the items of discussion on the agenda. It's a slightly different statement that you made, Mayor, about it being related to golf. Staff suggestion is it be related to those items on the agenda. Again, just a recommendation. Council or mayor may ask questions of the public during this time, and they may ask questions of staff. They also may limit comment to a specific time frame, or council or mayor may choose not to take comments. So really the comments would be in culmination or in part of the workshop that's been advertised. I think that addresses the question I have as to whether or not we have to amend the agenda. We don't have to amend it simply because it's part of that workshop. But when we get to the actual deliberation portion of the workshop, which is essentially what you're prepared to do tonight, then council can decide whether or not you want to continue that level of public input throughout that. So then council may decide to go into that workshop cell format to discuss the future contractor position. There are 3 particular decisions that council needs to deliberate and debate and discuss about. The contract type, the method of selection, and decide who will make the recommendation. The purpose of the workshop is really to allow council, again, to deliberate towards a decision, but to not make them until the appropriate time on the agenda. So it's really about debate at that point, discussion and debate. We'll pause for a moment. Staff suggests, and again, I want to emphasize that it's only a suggestion, limiting public input during the workshop deliberation portion so as to keep time and pace with tonight's objectives. Although you do not have to follow staff's recommendation. Tonight's meeting, a motion to decide, again, when we get to the actual decision-making portion, a motion to decide on the type of contract renewal is necessary. As presented back in July of this year, the golf committee reviewed several types and suggestions regarding the following: a similar split between the city and the golf contract that is currently in place, a fully employed or a ran course by the city, a split between a greenskeeper and a clubhouse manager, and the 4th option, which staff had presented but didn't make it to the recommendation, is that have a fully leased option where the city is simply just a landowner. The draft contract as we provided to the previous contractors included with the packet. I believe I have a draft contract based on that previous contract as well as the existing contract. So we move to the next decision, and these essentially build on them. So we move kind of sequentially through the development of information and debate onto the next topic, which is to decide on the method of selection for the next contractor. Based on previous decisions, staff needs clarity on whether the council wishes to seek an RFP or request for proposal, call for applicants, a job posting, etc. One of the other options I guess that staff is considering. Staff refers to the city attorney's memo at 10-3 for more information on the topic. That topic is really talking about the RFP, and Councilman Arthur, you may not have seen that, and that can provide it to you instead. Yes, those are privileged emails, so that's why they included in the public. Staff has begun a job announcement that has written it in such a way that it could be modified without much effort to any one of the 3 methods. So essentially what's been provided to you is some baseline information, and also staff seeks to get clarity from the council on the content of the document. This is really kind of that robust back and forth. You might have that in the workshop portion where we talk about words and wording. And then last on the agenda where council should consider a motion establishing or potentially reestablishing a committee to select the next contractor. This was done at that meeting in July. However, because we are starting anew, there needs to be either a reaffirming of that direction or a redirection in the form of a motion. If a subcommittee is preferred, staff suggests providing some guidelines on how the committee is structured, providing again the goals and purposes and how the work is required to provide that. If a subcommittee is selected, it needs to be clear that they are a committee of the council. They are subject to open meeting acts and compliances thereof. And lastly, their compliance with the Records Act needs to be acknowledged. Staff suggests having each member sign a form that stipulates this, and that's something I talked to the attorney about and reached out to other cities to find out how other cities deal with subcommittees, essentially bringing their full attention to the fact that anything that they do on behalf of you as a body needs to be documented within public record. If council wishes to have staff conduct those interviews and make recommendations, that's also an option. So in summary, council's workshop is meant to discuss all 5 elements as previously summarized. We need motions on the following 3 areas. As I mentioned, and then council, I just want to leave this for the council's benefit, and depending on how the night progresses, that after the workshop, council could take under advisement the information gathered and defer their final decision to a future date. So, leaving out there, I'm just not sure probably where a workshop portion will go if they'll be ready to make those motions. And with that, I stand for questions.
All right, so we've got 4 people that signed up to make public comments.
Can we sign up since we didn't know public comments were available? Thank you.
You want me to put an X by your name?
If you don't mind, sir.
I think what we'll do, if you're okay with it, is just run through each name and ask if they wish to speak at that time, instead of sending it back.
That would work. Okay, the first one we have is Lynn Feldman.
Yes. Thank you. City Administrator, is that Lisa? Yes, thank you. So my name is Lynn Feldman. I have purchased property, been a resident here in Bonners Ferry since 1984 at the south end of Paradise Valley and the cattle ranch out there. I spent the last 20 years working as a project director internationally on global infrastructure project on multi-billion-dollar jobs. I have run RFP processes, tendering processes. I know the process was supposed to be done with the pre-qual of candidates, and the tender process goes through the evaluation criteria, all of that stuff. With you get to a selection criteria, and then you go through the contract negotiations. I'd like to say that often I've been managing government contracts working overseas and domestically here in the U.S. I ran a federal consent decree program in Miami, very contractually oriented, and I understand the process that needs to be done. I'm not casting aspersions or blame or anything, but as a longtime person here, I can say that the past process that went through is a reason why people don't trust government anymore. It just was left a bad taste in my mouth, the whole process. And I applaud you, everybody up here, for being open and honest of what occurred. And this is a great community. It's a great golf course. You can tell by the quality of the people that go and attend. And it also has an international flavor. A lot of people from Canada come down and do it. My wife Adina, I brought her here from Australia 2 years ago. She worked at the golf course here for the last year and has met the people that are here. And I want to say that by the attendance of people that are here, this community cares about this golf course, and we want to have it succeed. So I applaud everybody for caring and showing up here and showing the city council that the golf course does matter. just because you don't play golf doesn't mean that it's not part of this community, so that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Gerald Higg, just signed up to speak.
Yes. It would seem that the purpose of the golf committee, since most of them are golfers, bring a lot of expertise to the table, and that's needed in an advisory capacity for the city to make decisions about the golf course in all phases of its operation. But it seems where that should end is when it comes to the selection of who is going to run this, that should pass at that point to city staff and city government. And it's at that point that the involvement of the golf committee ceases at that point. It's your decision, and I know that once you've been given the good advice from the golf committee of how this needs to be operated, the decision should be yours. But this process that just took place, there's a lot of blood on a lot of people's hands who knew better. So I will have to say at this point, there was a lot of willful ignorance that went on, particularly when it comes to Idaho's open meetings law and conflicts of interest. And how we got to this point, that we got a different mayor sitting in his chair right now because of this mess. And I'm telling you, tongues are wagging, and it's outside of Bonners Ferry, it's outside of Boundary County. There are people in North Idaho of consequence who are talking about the mess we managed to get ourselves into. So, shame on those who knew better, specifically about the conflicts of interest, and didn't advise the former mayor of such. That we got to a point where the decision had basically been made, and then we could talk about the open meetings law problems, and where the books were cooked for a particular individual. And that's embarrassing, and it's humiliating. And it's put undue staff on good people here who have moral principles and who have positions in our city government. So I feel for our staff that's had to take the heat for this mess. But you know what? I'm quite certain you as a body are capable of fixing it. Like I said before, last city council meeting, I got up and I spoke that I trusted the people. And I do. So, anyways, my support is with you, and I'm sure you will come to appropriate decisions.
Mary Ann Howard, did you wish to speak?
No.
Steve, did you wish to speak, Howard?
No.
Gary Anderson? Adrian?
So I just want to let you know that I was in retail management, high up retail management, custom home theaters, multi-million-dollar homes, government contracts. So I dealt with a lot of this. I also was an event coordinator for many years too. I want to bring to light a positive note of this whole situation. We can't fix the past. I mean, we can't change the past, excuse me, but we can fix it. One of my things when I was reading through public records was I had this vision with this one particular applicant. Obviously, if you go through this new process, you may potentially get more. But with this one particular applicant, he was highly qualified. And he was even encouraging you guys to allow him to use his PGA certification so that he can bring in tournaments. And when I was reading that, I was thinking to myself, I was having this great envision, right? Because I'm a dreamer. And my envision was, not only is this going to bring in tax dollars, but this is going to fund hotels, food industry. It's going to, you guys are trying to do a boardwalk, right? Eventually, that's a long-term dream. We could really bring in some revenue. And then that way, it's not such a burden on the local taxpayers. Because I could say, I lived in a town called Branson, Missouri before I lived here. And I don't know if you know what Branson, Missouri is, but it's like a little Vegas minus the casinos on Christian rock stars and things like that. And we were taxed, we were funded. Our community was funded by the tax paying of tourism. And we had some elaborate swimming pools. walking trails, et cetera, et cetera. So I think honestly, this is something we should really be looking forward to future when you decide which way you're gonna go, is how can we create a potential revenue that will help our tax-paying community. Thank you.
Mike Halbert?
No.
Steve Hudson?
Yes.
On July 11th, I'm the chairman of the city golf committee. I addressed the council on the urgency of beginning the process to replace the golf course operator. The golf committee put forward 2 proposals. The best option to find an operator would be one who would maintain the course and conduct golf operations. The second proposal was to create a committee to conduct the search for the new operator. Council discussed these proposals at some length and voted to create the committee with the roster of volunteers suggested. However, council did not act on the first proposal. The search committee met, created a request for proposal, and presented it to city staff for publication. At the end of the application timeline, the committee reviewed and interviewed all applicants, choosing the one who would be the best fit for Mirror Lake. It has been suggested by city staff that this committee was not well-rounded, made up of golf people, and acted outside of public meeting standards. Let me say a word about the committee. Ann Bonar, daughter of a golf pro, longtime resident, very successful business owner, along with rancher and retired attorney Ada Gardner, volunteered to represent the Mirror Lake ladies. Retired Army Major Bill Gutnick, who served at the station and later had a long career in telecommunications, along with Northern Lights board member and former mayor Dave Anderson, who retired from a long career in horticulture, volunteered to represent the Mirror Lake men. Jerry Ann Howlett and John Youngworth of the golf committee also volunteered. Jerry Ann is a master gardener and a United States Forest Service retiree with vast interagency credentials. John, a lifetime entrepreneur, recently retired from the head of the street department for the City of Bonners Ferry. John has extensive knowledge about the inner workings of municipal government. Master mechanic and city councilman Brian Poston rounded out the committee. The committee met, gathered information, picked the best applicant for the golf course operator's position, and was prepared to make that recommendation to the council. Their deliberation was unbiased, honest, and made with integrity. I would ask the council bear this in mind as you deliberate this evening.
Billy Kramer. And Hyatt. Scotty Chopin?
No.
Morrison?
No.
What is your first name?
I'm next. I know.
Osa. Osa. Kinda got written over here. And Kyle, you didn't know what to say. Ed Mo,
No, thanks.
Loretta Hunsack. Aaron Davis. And there's somebody before you that I can't read.
Dana Feldman. That was on to you.
Oh, I see what happened.
Yeah.
It was a signature, yeah. Fayon. Tyler Falls. Laura Anderson.
No.
David Anderson.
Yes.
I'm David Anderson. I was elected chairman of the subcommittee that was authorized by the city to choose a new contractor. We have 3 action items on the agenda tonight. I'd like to address all 3. First is to determine the city's operational method of choice. You can lease the entire operation to someone. The city's only function would be to collect yearly lease payments. The city of Pocatello does this. It's clean and administratively minimal. The problem, someone with that kind of money willing to invest in, knowing that they had to comply with the parameters of the Land and Water Conservation Grant, is very unlikely. Second, is for the city to run the course correctly. Your city manager just made reference to that in talking about hiring a separate greenskeeper and clubhouse operator. You have to find seasonal employees and oversee their work, but the entire profit or loss of the operation would fall to the city's general fund. I personally spent my entire life hiring seasonal employees. It's gotten harder and harder and harder to do. Since 2012, it's become nearly impossible. Thirdly is the independent contract agreement you have now. I personally know the opinion of the last 4 mayors concerning the form of this contract. They all hate it, but none of them have an alternative to it. It's a real paradox. It's a miserable contract, but it works. It minimizes the city's involvement and will assure the city of basic care needed to protect the city's investment. At the same time, it incentivizes the contractor to put in the massive number of hours and hard work necessary to Mirror Lake quality golf operation. As to the process of choosing a new contractor, I will say this. The process the prior committee went through fell victim to various minor inconsistencies. Not to throw anybody under the bus, many people were to blame, but they were insurmountable, and the process fell flat on its face. Nobody wants a repeat of that. You may consider bringing the vetting process more in-house. I would certainly recommend it. Perhaps someone from the city administration plus a councilman on the committee. But I would not leave out the type of people who served in this last process, people representing the local golf experience. Finally, I would put no rigid demands on the qualification of the applicants. In reality, what this course needs is a certified golf superintendent, not a teaching PGA pro. It's 80% grass cutting, 20% dealing with the public. Those are my numbers. And you're probably not going to get either one. In my lifetime, golf in this country has oscillated. Arnold Palmer on TV brought it up for 20 years. Baby boomers got married, founded 2 incomes. It went down. And the phenom of Tiger Woods came and it came back. The recession hit and it went down. A sidebar of COVID is now on the way up. As we speak, this very minute, there are 541 postings on the PGA job board. There are 259 postings on the groundskeeper, certified superintendent job board. I would be willing to guess that none of them require buy-in, which is part of the current contract structure of the city. 3 different PGA individuals called our current contractor and asked him about the job. None of them then applied for the job. 2 PGA contractors applied for the job without doing their homework and talking to the current operator. Neither one of which admitted to me they've ever driven a piece of golf course equipment. We interviewed one of them. We did not interview the other one because he didn't fill the complete requirements, which was a business plan that we wanted to see. The course ran for 30 years quite well with local individuals. I'm not sure the labels or the background are essentials. And I don't think your next committee or whatever way you proceed to look for applicants aren't going to be hindered by putting requirements, work time, labels, what have you. The job doesn't require as much of a pedigree as it requires somebody who cares. Quite frankly, it is not a dumb job. We're not going to be coming out of the woodwork to apply for it. We need to know that going forward. And this is a very important asset to this community and needs to be managed and set. Thank you.
Fair job. Matt Pruitt. Is there anyone on Zoom that wishes to comment? Yes.
You didn't call my name yet, I don't think. Shane McTaggart.
Did you wish to comment?
I would like to. I wasn't going to, but so I'm new to the area here. I live in Seattle area. I have been. I'm a member of Sahali Country Club. I've been on the board of directors there and on the golf committee. Major changing our tee times. For 2 years, I was chair of the golf committee, membership, social, and that. So I mean, I saw the process of this. The biggest thing is, I think I agree with this gentleman over here, is to get one person to do all the different things required. I think it's very hard. We have our golf course superintendent doing his thing there. You could have a golf pro and a general manager doing food and beverage, the pro shop, as well as the that type of thing, and the pro and the general manager, pro, etc., could also oversee what's happening on the golf course and then put it back to the council here. And being chair of the golf committee, it's exactly what's happening here. We made decisions and that, but it didn't go any further than it had to go to the board of directors before anything was passed. So I really do think it's a wonderful course. There's a lot of different things that could happen down there to make it, improve it. Even the carts you can lease. Cabinet Mountain leases theirs. There's Icon Golf down here, can buy back the old carts if needed. Things along those lines, but I just wanted to reiterate too that to have it for 3, one person for all of it. Ralph did a great job, but I think nowadays I think it's a little hard to do one person to do the 3 jobs: the golf course, the pro shop, and the food and beverage.
That's the end of my list.
There were a couple people that came in after. You might want to just ask if there's any questions.
Did you want to speak, Marcia? No. Is there anybody that I haven't called on that would like to speak?
Yeah, I will. Hi, I'm Adina Feldman. I worked at the golf course this year, and I just want to, I don't want to get involved with all the political stuff, but I just want to reiterate to everyone the importance of the golf course. It is not just somewhere that people go and play golf. Before I started the golf course, I didn't like golf. I didn't have anything to do with golf. And I found a family, I found a community. I found a place where people come when they're having the worst day of their life. Like, I had a guy come up and his father had died that morning. And his family brought him out here to play golf, to take him away from Right, so I just wanna make sure that the council, the staff, everyone involved knows how important that community is to this community. I have lived here for 2 years. I came from Australia again. We're taking over. But, you know, I want to make sure that everyone knows that it's not just a golf course. It's not just the money maker. It is essential to this community. It brings so much to us. We bring people in, like my husband mentioned, from Canada, from all places. Like, we had a guy come in who has played, well, they were playing every golf course in every state of America. And we were number 50 something. Like 79. Thank you, Miss Karen. So I just want to make sure that when people are making their decisions about the golf course and who is running it, they understand how important it is to us and to our community.
Anyone else? All right, so that's going to conclude the public comment period, and we'll go into the workshop portion of this. Do you have any direction on this, Lisa?
Well, I mean, we can just decide how we want to do it. Certainly lean on your staff if you have questions. But essentially, the point of the workshop is to sort of deliberate the 3 conditions that you likely could make tonight. And amongst yourselves, so you can work towards that. That's essentially the purpose of the workshop.
Okay, I will read what it says about the workshop. To discuss steps on golf course manager for Mirror Lake Golf Course. Council will at a minimum discuss the type of contract they wish to see staff prepare, the method for selecting a golf manager, and how the selection process should be brought forward to City Council. So, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, as Lisa suggested when she gave the PowerPoint presentation, I thought at the beginning, having our committee, the first thing that we were discussing is the type of contract that we were going to have from the committee. So that was the first thing that I thought we were going to see as a council, like what kind of contract we were going to have and just see it. That way we would actually have everybody who was involved. I knew that we had limited amount of time. And I just want to say that when we chose the people for this group, absolutely have no regrets at all about the people who were chosen for this committee. I think that, and I thank you for being on it. That is, I have no issues whatsoever about that. That's not what this was about at all for me. We definitely, we skipped some steps, and there were some issues with that, and the way that we went about it with the contract, the type of contract, the moving forward with it, like putting the cart before the horse a little bit when it came to the RFPs, and not having a few things squared away beforehand. And then having everybody come forward and doing the process of the interviews. So I hadn't known that the committee had made a decision on anything until the mayor told me that he had resigned. So that was crazy. And in part that was an issue there, because I hadn't received one of my correspondences from our attorney. So, but that was, and when I had heard that, there was still time for him to take his name off of that ballot. this is really, I think that the people that were on the committee, none of us know about the process that you went through. And nobody here, at least I'm not questioning what your process is. I didn't know what your process was because I wasn't a part of any part of that process. Therefore, we do have to review the process. Because it is under question. And because of the issues that have been brought up, and because we didn't look at some things in order, we do have to look at the process. But the first thing I think that we need to consider is that it's not about the people who are on our committee. And that we are going to have some other people included in the next part of this process in order to provide the checks and balances so that our community trusts us. But it's not about taking away the people that are on this committee.
Could I respond?
Yes.
I was not on the committee. I just helped form it and came to the council. And as the golf committee can only do, and as that committee could only do, was make a recommendation. They didn't pick the next manager. That recommendation was to come to council. I just want to make that point. That committee did not pick the next golf course manager. They had a recommendation ready to go. That's it. It never got to you, from what I understand.
Yeah, I did.
It never
Okay.
did. No.
It never has.
So I think you said that they chose the next, or whatever, but they didn't. They can only recommend, the golf committee can only recommend to the council. So
Sure.
that's sort of a fine point, but
It is.
it's not like this group of unknown people made this decision and that's how it's gonna be.
No.
Well, that's.
And that's not where I am.
No, I'm not saying that's
Yeah.
sensitive, but that's sort of been said.
Yeah, the way that, you know, when we have a selected committee, a hiring committee, generally speaking, we take that under consideration and we generally go in that direction. So, and because of who it was made up of, I'm the one who made the motion for the people who were on the committee. I had no issues with that whatsoever.
And I have zero issues with the committee.
So that's not what this is about though, but we do have to go back and we do have to take a look at the process. And because we have some legal issues going on here. And we have to look at how this was done. This isn't about who's selected to me. This isn't about any of that. It's about where we ended up and some of the steps that we're seeing. So,
There was one mistake made on 7/11,
So-
on an action item that wasn't covered. And I don't know how that happened, but the type of contract we were gonna go with.
well, that was to be decided by the committee.
But it was an action item at that meeting. It was not, there was no motion made on that issue,
Okay.
on 7/11. And then item 9 on the, if you look at the minutes.
Well, it's yeah.
That
The only
should have
time
been
that it was
decided that night.
addressed was when I said that, yeah.
First of all, we keep rehashing what happened in the past. I'm not sure exactly what happened in the past. I didn't hear a name till the very end, and I was told that was probably gonna be recommended to us, and that never happened. I wanna talk more about where do we go from now rather than the flaws in the past. First of all, we've had a contract with Ralph for, 20 years? And, which Dave said that it's nobody ever liked the contract, but that's what we went with. Maybe it needs to be tweaked certain areas. So why can't we tweak that contract where everybody's satisfied with it and use that to go out for application for people that want the job as manager of that golf course out there? And I think that there should be a committee formed, another committee formed. And I think one person that should definitely be on that committee, if he's gonna be around, is Ralph. I mean, if there's anybody knows what's going on at that golf course and what needs to be done and how to go about doing it, it would be Ralph. And I think we need to get that committee formed, let them go out, I mean, let's go out for applications, or RFPs, whatever you wanna call it. And then let them do the interviewing of that committee, I mean, of the applicants. And when they get through obeying the open meeting law, when they get through doing that, then I would ask that they make a recommendation to city council as to who that manager should be. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I'd like to move forward to just say that the independent contractor, been on council before, the independent contractor is exactly what Dave said. It's not the greatest system, but it's the one that works. And I think we probably should stick with that. If we need to make some, we may need to make some investments in it to make it more appealing to somebody to take that contract. I don't know if that's our issue, but I think we should stick with the independent contractor system. I think
agree.
that's what our first.
That's our first, we have a motion to that effect.
We're not there yet.
Not there yet, okay.
But it needs, but the contract that we set up needs to be approved by our attorney.
Correct.
And we need to ensure that, that as whoever that contractor is that we have, we need to make sure that we are complying with Idaho laws. So that is very important.
I don't know that we're there yet. I mean, we're
Right.
talking about complying with Idaho laws. I mean, we go out for,
And how we get to the contract.
well, you know, it depends on who applies for it. Whether we need to look at that area.
Well, I kind of thought all along that we should have gone to the contract first. And massaged the contract, made it a little more appealing. I sat down with Ralph and talked about the contract. And he pointed out quite a few things on it that were changed in the middle of his tenure there that he didn't like, that weren't very appealing. He said, if you send this contract out, there's not a PGA member that will put his name on it. So I had always thought right from the beginning the contract should come first. Then and get it the way it needs to be. Then go out for RFP or search for manager or however you want to word it. But I agree with Ron. We need to look at the contract for sure.
You know, how do we go out and look? And I keep hearing now, if you do the RFP, then a lot the state has to say about how you go about doing it. Or can we just go out for a manager, just like we would for somebody for the street department or some other department we have? We're looking for applicants that want that job without having to go through all that. The RFP part of it. I think that's where we had some problems in the past. Is that not advocate on the RFP issue?
And Lisa, is this the same problem?
There's two 2019 update, so in the 2019 update, the Ralph sign is the second version. Look at both, staff hasn't fully understood or good what the issues are with the contract. So we're not here and prepared to talk to you about what was going to be.
I thought that that was the first step of the golf committee that we were setting up. That was the thing that we were supposed to be doing anyway, before going. Can anybody explain to me why we started hiring before we had the contract situation just set up?
Well, the way it was written up is, once you hire somebody, then the contract can be negotiated. I don't know. Couldn't tell you that. Did you agree with that from the beginning?
Well, that
That's
has
not
to
what
be
we
the
discussed in the
beginning.
meeting.
When you go out and ask somebody if they want to apply for the job, they're gonna know what is the job comprise. And you got that job description right there to tell, this is what they have to do. Is that
Yeah,
wrong, or is
I
that,
know.
Lisa,
Yeah.
is that not the way that we would proceed? That if we're gonna go out and ask for a job, the job description would be there. And then the people would look at it and say, well, yeah, I'd like to do that. I'm qualified to do that. But they gotta know what the job is.
I think that's the first action item that staff's asked council to do with those.
So, number one, the reason why we have to go back to the past a bit is so that we can say, number one, we have to have our committee set up and go back to the priority. The priority is actually setting up what the contract should look like, which is what we talked about initially when we set up the committee. The purpose of the special committee was initially to select the method or type of contract for the future. Initially, that was the purpose. Before hiring, before even thinking about hiring, we were supposed to be setting up that.
Yeah, and that was on that was on the agenda, along with the type of contract
It's
was
also on
on
our
the
notes.
agenda and didn't get a motion made on that item. It just got passed over. That when it's all started.
And it was in our notes that,
Yeah.
okay, but it was also in the notes from the meeting, whether there was a motion or not a motion, that the priority was supposed to be
Right.
setting up the contract initially. Because we didn't talk about hiring. We didn't talk about hiring at all in that meeting. We talked about setting up the contract.
What type of contract? Right?
The method or type of contract for the
Yeah.
future. That was what we talked about in that meeting. Not setting up interviews for people yet. Steve then introduced the idea of starting a special committee that would address the method of the future contract. That is specifically what we were setting up in that meeting on July 11th. That's why I was so confused. So, I think, and that's where it felt like cart before horse. So we do need to set up on that. So, we have to record a motion to select the type of contract.
I'm a little confused when you say type of contract. We only have one contract.
I don't know.
Well, it's
There
the
was different
independent
ways to go.
contractor.
Whether you want to lease the force, whether you want a contract.
That's what I said earlier, then. That's the route, the
I would
easiest
agree with
route.
Adam about having an independent contractor.
I think lease is out. Let's just put that one down.
Okay.
I don't think there's gonna be.
I don't think that the city can also deal with and hire another, like, doing the seasonal hiring with
You mean a city run?
city run. I don't think it's gonna work either.
besides, without cost itself. I mean, most of your employees with the city are $25 an hour or more. How are you gonna put how are you gonna put 7 or 8 people out there at that kind of rate?
Not to mention, just burden on staff every year to find people.
People that may or may not know
A
anything.
prime example, we have a hard time finding people every year for that, so.
And the turnover. So I agree that it's gonna be that it needs to be
Contract similar to what we already have.
Right.
Maybe some changes made to it.
some changes possibly made to it.
But how do you go out and look for people to take the job if you don't have anything to offer?
Sure. I'm not saying that the contract doesn't need to be
How are we gonna
changed.
find out what
Well, you need to form a, like Ralph, like Ron said, a small committee, maybe Ralph, maybe Andrew Kay, maybe, I don't know, maybe a councilman, and sit down and go through it, and see what it would take. Ralph has numbers in his head, what it takes to make the thing work. And he's obviously made it work, but he said it could sure be a lot better and a lot easier. So, maybe that's the direction we need to start with. You know, we can still decide on these other things, but getting the contract prepared before you go out to public to advertise it, have a contract ready.
I don't think we can appoint so we kind of talked about the
Can't hear. Can't hear at the back, please.
Sorry.
Thank you.
We've talked about the independent contractor, and that seems like the way to go, but then we also need to think about the method that we're gonna. I feel like we're running low on time, so we should probably get a few of these things taken care of, but also be careful not to put the cart before the horse.
Right, yeah.
But, so do we need a committee, do we need to form a committee to get the independent contractor contract to make it desirable?
To form a new contract.
So,
Would that come first, or should we just stick with the agenda and go through and do that, and then tag that on at the end or whatever, and make sure that's done before it's advertised?
I think we're gonna committee ourselves to death.
Yes, we are.
I mean, that's,
well, I don't know where
us states come in some responsibility ourselves for that contract. I mean, why can't we, along with Lisa, along with somebody like Ralph, sit down and go over that contract and see where the bad and good is and make adjustments to it as we have to make it. And once we get that contract away in form of a job description, go out and ask them.
Then go out, yeah.
However, the easiest way is to submit, desire for the job.
well, let's do it then.
Yeah, that's what I say, let's get started, do it. And take some responsibility on ourselves for
Yeah.
getting that contract ready to go.
Just invite Ralph in with us and sit down and do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lisa,
Sounds
are you
good to me.
seeing anything about this that's giving you heartburn?
I would ask that the mayor could be involved in the process.
The what?
Yeah.
This mayor?
Although we have-
Well, I always consider him as part
He's
of
here.
us.
You can't get out of it. Right, right.
He might want out of it, but he can't get out of it.
And I was gonna say that Rob is retired as well, so,
If we can get him here.
you know, so we have to consider that.
Until the end of the year, we'll have it covered.
Great, okay.
Well, have we talked about this enough that we can go ahead and take some action on that, number 2?
Well, number 2, we can select a contract, but we can't select what the contract is, so I
No.
don't know if that's
We're not.
even what,
Well, the type of, I mean, are we gonna do a contract, are we gonna do a lease, are we gonna do city run?
So I guess
That's
that-
all a decision we gotta make there.
So we need to decide whether or not we're gonna stick with the contract the way it is, or maybe there's some tweaks to it.
This, that one word there, I mean, some of us might be looking at that word contact as a contract. This is not, it just says discuss and select type of contact for independent.
Should be contract.
Okay.
It should be contract.
Type of contract.
I don't know if it should or not. We don't have the contract. I mean, it's, what are we?
We do have a contract. There is a contract. Ralph had one, and we have it right here. We do have a contract, and we can decide we're going
So
that
let's set up
direction.
so we can set up a meeting time. That would be number one, setting up a meeting time so that we could actually meet, in order to create that.
Well, I think once we get number 2, when you look down to number 3 to discuss it, I think whether it's the same committee or we form another committee to look at the applications that we get in, that comes in here to the city, for them to go over those, interview the ones that need to be interviewed, and after that, they make a recommendation to city council as to who should be the candidate.
Can I add something?
Sure.
You need to have a selection criteria set up before you
Yeah.
do this, okay? There's a process it's standard across the world of how you do this. And I understand what you're saying about the contract,
Sure.
but you also have to be open that somebody you have terms and conditions, T's and C's that you would request somebody to meet, but somebody may have their own idea. You don't want to discount and throw out and be so prescriptive that somebody else may have another approach. So be open to options when something come in. Okay, so the process you're talking about here, if I was doing it and I was project director, you're right, you'd have a subcommittee to look at the contract.
Yes.
But you also have to have another committee to start preparing the RFP process. What are you gonna do? How are you gonna do it? When are you gonna do it? You're right, you got a time frame coming up here. Ralph, I understand, is out December 1st. So if you're gonna go through a process to get somebody here, you need to be able to pick Ralph's brain after you have somebody selected, so you can do that. Ralph's shutting down the golf course now. So how are you gonna have somebody new coming in here when Ralph's in Alaska? So you're right about the time frame, Ron, for what you gotta do. But the selection criteria is gonna be critical. That's where the city attorney is gonna have to come in and say, how are you gonna score his financial, or his or her financial? How he's gonna run the green fees, how he's gonna handle this, what's the profit potential? All those things are gonna attract applicants to what you wanna come in. So that's just a suggestion, but the selection criteria, you can't jump to choosing somebody until you figure out how you're gonna select those
We
persons.
need the contract terms before we can do the selection criteria for
Exactly.
the RFP.
That's right, I agree.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Is that if we get our contract squared away, then we can move to the RFP.
That's right.
Now, is that the way we want to go, the RFP?
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be an RFP, but it could, and if we don't do an RFP, then we need to have just the.
Expressions of interest, you know,
Yes.
or
And that's where
something
we
like
run
that.
into problems on the original,
Yep.
was the RFP was so strict in its terminology of what you shall have and all the criteria that you had to meet. And if you didn't meet those, then that was the end of it. And we've had that happen in the past, and we've had to do just what we're doing now, is to come back and start at square one and rewrite how we're going to advertise this. Did I say that right, Andy?
Yeah, and just for clarification's sake, I think item number 3, what you're actually discussing and deciding on is whether you want to do an RFP or whether you want to do some other process, like a call for interested parties or something like that. That's what number 3 is meant to convey, is to have the council make a decision on whether or not, how, the method in which you're going to seek that call.
Not whether we have a committee or not.
Correct, that's number 4.
Well, number 4 says just appoint a committee, but I'm assuming
It says
that means whether or not.
discuss and appoint, so that would be whether or not you want
Type
to
of
do
committee
that.
and who it might be.
What other way would be to select rather than RFP? What would you call it?
You can just do a call for interested parties or a job posting, or RFP is a very specific legal term that requires a long list of things, including selection criteria and how those are scored. And that's the root of the issue, is that the document that was put out was called an RFP and therefore has to meet the requirements of Idaho law and did not.
We're not required by Idaho
You
law.
are not required to do an RFP.
Well, do we have to take these in order, or can we jump from one to the other? I mean, we could take care of, number 3 then,
So
and,
we could say call for applicants then?
right, call for applicants rather than do an RFP. Do that.
Can I make a motion
on
then?
record.
Uh-huh.
I would make a motion and.
Hang on.
I think I would conclude your discussion and then you make the motions separately at the end of your discussion.
So are we satisfied with our discussions that have occurred? So are we ready to move on to motions or not?
For 2 and 3.
The other part of that job posting is who's creating that? Is it staff that's creating that job posting? Are you gonna have a committee create that job posting? Because before, staff was specifically asked not to be part of that process.
That does not make sense.
We were told not to be part of the process for putting out the criteria for how the golf, what that
Yes, it
job
did.
posting required. So,
That does not make sense.
But again, we're not-
stats, again, I'm asking council to provide direction to staff on who is creating that job posting. Because we need to know, so that when we're asked what was our role, we need to be told by council what you expect of us.
Yes.
And I think, again, when you said she was told to stay out of it, that was in the past. Now we're talking about in the future.
Right,
I
and
think
that's-
she
and
needs
that's
to
what
be
I'm s-
involved.
Well, I'm saying that we need direction from council on
Yes.
who you want creating that job posting.
And both of them, Lisa and Andrew need to be involved, in my opinion. I don't have a
Right.
vote on this, but
Part of the committee.
Creating the job posting, and everybody on council probably should read it before it goes out.
Sorry, Brian, can we just jumping on the back of that, can we find out who made that direction?
That was the current mayor Staples.
Okay.
Former mayor.
Thank
Current at that time.
Just
Current at that time, former mayor Staples.
Okay, thank you, just
Mayor
wanted
at that time.
clarification. Thank you.
Was that made at a public meeting, or was that made in private?
That was, I can't speak for Lisa, it was provided to me separately.
Thank you for asking.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? I don't know how it works for city council. I know other boards, your director, or in this case, your mayor, he can have his own council or committee and doesn't necessarily need the council vote. I don't know if that's with the city too. So basically, you can create a committee without the council's vote. Am I wrong with the city? Because that is other, like for example, the library. The director of the library can create her own committee. So if you took Ralph and maybe 2 from different sides of opinions on how this should go, and then just tweak that contract that Ralph already has, what's the point of having this whole committee if you guys are on a time crunch? You could have this done with Lisa by next week, be back in a special committee and start working on putting in putting in job description and seeking employment.
I'd rather do it the way you talked about it. So we'd rather than.
well, I don't know that I can even do that.
Well, I would be for
I
it.
can't. I've been
Yeah,
doing
and
this for a whole 3 weeks, so.
I did provide that as a scenario in the letter that or email that I sent to you on.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, I think council ought to be involved and take some responsibility, and I think that's one way of doing it. Working, whatever you want to do as far as tweaking it and doing it. I think the direction we're taking now is good.
I also do, want, if somebody doesn't like something, whether that's somebody from the public or, somebody from the committee, if somebody doesn't like something, I don't want, any kind of blame or any issues to fall on one person. And I think it's important for us to have all of us here to take that. So, and to support our staff. And our community.
I agree with that.
In the law, I might have a headed up. When Ralph was first hired,
We want to be careful that we're not just allowing rejections and people see them. We are not including
okay, excuse me, but may I speak?
Yes,
Stephen Howard. In the past, Ralph was not hired. Somehow, he got an advertisement from the city to be hired 21 years ago. At that time, there was a contract, 1, 2, or 3 years. That contract was agreed upon. Whether or not there was an RFP there, who knows? But the process was set up 20 years ago. The contract that we have now is still in effect. So you have a contract that may need to be tweaked. So you're not starting from zero. You're just somewhat of a stumbling point. Is this contract good? As far as the city goes, it is. As far as Ralph goes, it was, because you both signed it. Now, Ralph has since said there's some issues that may be corrected, which we won't know unless you ask him. The process of getting him in the very beginning, you had to have someone. Did you put it in the Herald? And he answered, ad in the Herald. There has to be a previous process that you went through. But you do have a contract. And you can go forward with the contract as is if it fits the city's criteria. And then, like Lynn suggested, whoever then is approved by the whatever subcommittee happens, they can then tweak that, just like Ralph and you tweaked it 5 years ago when you renewed it. And the renewal before that. Each time there was a tweaking and a renewal of that contract. And that's the same package that I think you're trying to get out there now. You have a beginning ground with the contract. Use that. Find out what is the biggest problem with it, with Ralph's point of view as the operator, and find out if you can live with a change or a modification to it. I think the rest just falls in
What I
place.
said earlier, I wanted to do is tweak the
That's all we were
contract
talking about.
and go with that contract.
Okay, but you don't know the points at this point.
No, that's what I say, tweak it. And we, in order to tweak, we gotta find out from Ralph what the problems were, and maybe from staff, what problems they've seen in the contract over the years. But in all the parties involved, tweak the contract, come up with a contract, and go with that.
So why do you need a committee?
So are we ready to make a motion on item 2 to discuss and select the type of contract for the independent contractor?
If this is proper, I'd like to make a motion that we, select the, contractor by going out for, what is that,
Expression of interest.
pardon me?
Expression of interest, was it?
In other words, folks that are interested in it.
And you know what, BOI.
Right.
We need to not start interjecting here as we go.
But I think rather than RFP.
Well, I guess we need to decide what we're gonna call this application process.
What did you, Andrew K., you said earlier?
I said a call for applicants.
But job posting.
Yeah.
Just a job post.
Yeah, but not the RFP.
No.
No.
All right, that's my motion.
Call for applicants or
Right.
job opening? Okay.
Both all be the same.
No, which?
So you're making a motion that we,
Okay, we need to back up. There hasn't been a motion on the independent contractor portion, item number 2, so you need to back up to there.
Yeah.
We need a motion on the structure of how the course is going to be run. And what I'm hearing from you is that that's an independent contractor, like the contract we have now. That's fine, but we need a motion and a vote on that first.
I make a motion that we select an independent contractor for the Mirror Lake Golf Course.
second.
Motion been made and seconded. Ron?
Yes.
Adam?
No, because I don't like the way it looks like this. But that's, I'm just gonna say that, that's, I just think that, we're not choosing an independent contractor, we're choosing to have a contract, our contract to be independent contractor for authorized staff.
There's Mike. This guy.
Okay.
Just one.
No. We'll remake the motion. No.
Okay. Make a motion that we are putting out for contractor with the contract that we already have in place, that style of contract.
I think it might be easier to say that you're making a motion that we run Mirror Lake Golf Course with an independent contract structure.
Why you pay her the big bucks?
Okay,
We're good.
we're good.
Say it.
Did you get what Andrew K. said?
What did she say? I wasn't listening, I was reading.
Oh, man.
Like I said, I think the motion you're looking for is that you make a motion that the city run Mirror Lake Golf Course with an independent contractor structure.
Okay. Make a motion that we run the Mirror Lake Golf Course with an independent contractor structure. Contract structure.
I second. Oh,
Contract.
good job.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Ron?
Yes.
Adam? Val?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Okay, moving on. Item number 3, discuss and decide on method of selecting the next golf course manager.
I think what you're looking for in this motion is if you're going to do a call for applicants, that the motion needs to include that you're going to solicit interest with a call for applicants and who's going to create that job posting or that advertisement.
I make that motion and the staff be the one to take it. Make sense? Did you get that?
Staff and city council. Staff
What?
and council.
No, I mean, so you understood what it was.
Well, I think I need to read it into the record.
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
Give me a
You're already doing it.
I'm just gonna repeat what I keep my notes.
Alright.
Writing at the same time. Ron's motion was to solicit interest for call for applicants with staff preparing the request.
You're not including
Yeah, I think she, Manager Hay clarified that instead of saying requesting, so staff would prepare the job posting. I have that manager.
You have a motion, do you have a second? Thanks.
I like the motion that staff is involved, and I think council, one or two council members should be involved in the process of writing that also. Or at least proofreading it and approving it.
There was discussion about Ralph and the mayor about it.
I also want to make sure that we have,
I don't want to get too many people involved with that.
I'll make it buttered up.
we want to make sure that we've also had the contract has been reviewed first. If we do not say that the contract has been reviewed first, then, once again, we run right into that same issue.
So what was that motion? Maybe I'm lost.
Okay. So,
Well, sorry,
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna speak. You had down that you wanted to solicit a call for applicants to staff preparing the job posting, and what I hear council say is that they would like to.
Well, wait a minute, before you get to that part, what we're saying is we're gonna go out for that. We'll already have the job description, because we're talking about tweaking it and putting it together, so you'll have something to go forward.
If I could interject what I think the other members are saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the contract needs to probably be first presented, or written, or delivered for the call for applicants.
Isn't that what we're talking about, tweaking the contract that we already have, and that we were gonna come up with one? Wouldn't that already be done when you do this?
I think that clarity is before the
that's
council.
why we wanted to make sure that that was included in the motion.
Yeah.
Well, I will draw my motion if somebody else wants to make a motion.
Okay, so now we have no motion.
I make a motion that we solicit interest with the call for applicants, the staff, and the contract committee preparing the job posting after, creating the contract.
Did that make sense?
My only question is who is the committee? I think that needs to be
Right.
pretty explicit.
Oh, well.
And you
I thought
could-
if the committee was just us.
I think what you're looking to do is have staff communicate with, Ralph, with, with the mayor, with whoever, as part of that. I don't think you have to form a special committee to do it. I think you can just direct staff to work with the current golf course contractor and to work with, members of council to, to present this. I don't think you have to form a committee to do it. That's why you have staff.
Right.
I would motion to direct staff to submit a call for applicants with input from the golf contractor and the mayor, the current golf contractor and mayor. And council. All leave it open.
You better check all the boxes, okay?
Are you good now?
We'll read back what we think we heard in direct staff to submit a call for applicants with input from the current golf contractor and is there any part about the contract?
There's nothing about the contract in there, but I don't think we do anything about the contract in there because it's a call for applicants.
With the contract,
Yeah,
or somebody to do the contract.
we're gonna have to figure out. You gotta get someone interested in it first. If Ralph says that doing the job posting that nobody's gonna be interested in because of this. I don't know. Do we need to have the contract fixed first before we got posting?
Before it's posted.
I think that staff, if that's council's direction, is we can discuss the areas where Ralph is concerned about the contract as part of that discussion about the job posting. But I think the idea that you would create a contract that's fixed, that is not flexible in any way prior to going out for applications is not realistic. Because you might find somebody who wants to do things slightly differently that works for the city, but isn't what you contemplated initially. So certainly staff can go through the contract with Ralph and get his feedback on that as part of creating that job posting.
Staff has presented to the council packet the beginning of that draft independent contractor agreement, which was based on the 2015 contract.
That's the 2023 one that's in our plan.
And then there is a current active one that was done in 2019. So there are differences, and unfortunately we couldn't find the Word document in the 2019 version. So staff would, whomever council decides is gonna sit down and go through this, they would be looking at probably both of those if we're contemplating a similar contract as part of our record.
Well, and the motion covers that, correct?
Yeah.
So are you happy with the motion?
We're comfortable with the motion?
I didn't hear what you said.
Did you say anything?
Oh, I said, we're comfortable with the motion.
Okay,
But I second it.
okay. So motion made and seconded. Brian?
Yes.
Val?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
We're really not. Okay, number 4. We wish to discuss and appoint a committee to recommend the next Gulf Coast member.
Mayor, I would just point to the fact that I did put in the presentation that council can postpone any decision that you don't have to take one. This
Right.
might be one where you wait and see what call for applicants look like and decide from there who you want to vet those applications. And that's also written in my scenario-based discussion in October 11th.
So we don't need to make that
That's- it should be-
that decision tonight?
We don't, we can table it if you'd like.
If you'd like, you do. None of these decisions had to be made tonight, but that one, if you wanna see how
If you
this
want to move
plays out.
forward, we can get.
Well, that would be that when the interest comes in, this quote committee would be seeing those. Is that right? They would go right to the committee. They would see. And they then in turn would interview the ones that would be appropriate.
Correct.
And then they in turn would come to city council with a recommendation.
All right.
Yes, I would make that motion, that we do that.
And you need to state who that committee is, and you need to,
That we form a committee, we gotta name the committee right now?
No, we didn't.
if you're going to, staff has to know who we're supposed to be working with when these applications come in.
Well, we could.
I'd like to table it. I don't feel comfortable setting up a committee tonight. I don't even know.
Do what now? I can't hear you.
Oh, I don't feel comfortable setting up a committee tonight.
Well, I don't either, but you have to do it right now. I didn't know we had to do it right now.
But we don't have to, we can table it.
Well, let's do that.
Okay, so number 4 is tabled.
Let's make sure we get it on, agenda as soon as we can, so we can get it done.
Have a lot of work to do before we get there. So, contract.
So I guess that means that previous committee is no longer.
No, there was no motion made that way. that committee's still in effect until there's a motion made otherwise. Correct, Andrew King?
Realities. I mean, I don't know what they're gonna be doing.
We could bring them all right back. We may decide to do that.
Well,
I would not recommend that.
I would disagree with that.
Yes.
No way.
Should I make a motion, we just disband that committee?
No, I
It's not on the agenda.
I don't think you I don't think you have to decide that tonight. Again,
Good.
staff has we have a lot of things we need to do as far as getting the contract ready to go, and putting out the job posting before we ever talk about how those applications are reviewed or how those people are interviewed.
All right, so number 4 was tabled, and we are adjourned.
Mayor, where can someone send an application to be on that committee? Can they email you directly?
Staff.
Okay, Lisa? Okay, thank you.